Hey guys! Welcome to Couple. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. Threatened delivery of S-300 air defenses to Assad is red line. Israel would likely try to blow them up, says ex-Intel chief angered by last week's US attack on Syria. Russia warned that there would be consequences. Only one of them was spelled out. The Kremlin said it may supply its Syrian ally with state-of-the-art air defenses. If the prospect rings alarm bells among President Bashar al-Assad's enemies, they're likely to be loudest in Israel, not the US. Israel carries out airstrikes in Assad-controlled Syrian territory much more frequently than the US, as it seeks to prevent a military buildup near Israeli borders by Assad's other key backer, Iran. The S-300 surface-to-air missile system. Israeli analysts and former defense officials say there's only one likely response from the Jewish state if the S-300 surface-to-air missile systems are delivered to Syria, an immediate attempt to blow them up. That would upend the delicate relationship between Israel and Russia, who've kept channels open despite supporting opposite sides in Syria. And it could create another dangerous moment with the potential to escalate the 7-year civil war into a wider conflict. What will be done already? Multiple global and regional powers have been sucked in. Last week saw the tensest standoff in decades between nuclear rivals Russia and the US. On the ground, American and Turkish soldiers occupy separate chunks of the country's north, while Iranians and Russians fight alongside Assad's army. In the skies, Israel has for the most part enjoyed freedom of maneuver, thanks to its air superiority and an implicit green light from Moscow. Both conditions may now change. Amos Yadlin has first-hand experience of how Israel responds to such threats and no doubts about how it would handle this one. A former military intelligence chief, Yadlin was also one of the Israeli pilots who destroyed Iraq's Asirak nuclear reactor in 1981. The deployment of S-300s in Syria has been a concern for 2 decades, and at the end of the day, it will happen, he said. If I know the Air Force well, we have already made proper plans to deal with this threat. After you remove the threat, which is basically what will be done, we're back to square one. Russia already has sold S-300 systems to Iran over American and Israeli objections. Syria was on track to get them too until 2013, when Russian President Vladimir Putin froze the contract in response to pleas from Israel. But Putin said at the time that if the US attacked, Moscow would think how we should act in the future. Russia reconsiders that moment arrived with last week's missile strikes by the US, UK, and France, in response to an alleged chemical attack by Assad's army. The Barza Research and Development Center before and after strikes against Syria on April 14. Hours afterward, Russia's first deputy chief of staff, Sergei Rudskoy, said his government would reconsider whether to supply the air defenses to Assad. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hammered home the message in a BBC interview 2 days later, saying the plan might be revived because Russia feels it must do whatever is required to help the Syrian army deter aggression. Israel has carried out at least 150 bombing raids in Syria since the civil war began in 2011, according to Zvi Magen, a former Israeli ambassador in Moscow. The latest, on April 9, hit an airbase used by the Iranian military. Other targets have included arms convoys bound for Hezbollah, the Iranian armed Shiite group in Lebanon that's repeatedly fought with Israel. The government and army have a strict policy of not acknowledging or commenting on military actions taken in the neighboring country. S-300s can fire missiles at 6 targets simultaneously, and have a range of 200 kilometers, 120 miles. That would extend into the airspace of Lebanon, sometimes used by Israeli planes to strike Syria and even into Israel itself. Exceptionally advanced. It's an exceptionally advanced system that can cover large swaths of territory, said Michael Oren, Israel's deputy minister for public diplomacy and an advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We will always oppose it.